it would appear that Runic is making a little bit more of a splash on the format than I think players are really expecting. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. We have the Oceanic breakdown here from the Australian Facebook group for the Source Dragon. Sent this all to me from there. So this is what we have for top 32. So we had 13 tier element players in top cut. Well, that's when the rest of your top cut is diversely broken down, you know, between like these two Titan decks here. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So the highest represented deck being tier, and this is where we've been talking about recently, where you've seen like the shift from like tier to sprite. We talked about in the top 5 video yesterday, where, you know, tier's like imaginary ceiling is way more consistent than sprite's consistency. And when I say sprite's consistency, your boards you make are very fair in comparison to tier's just amazing ceiling. So that's interesting. We also had 11 sprite decks. 24 of your top 32 had to do with power of the elements as a core set. Think about that, Duelist. Isn't that particularly crazy at the end of the day that you have that much of a change within the giant scope of your metagame? We also had one sprite tier element list. I always love this little merger here that you see players bring to the table, because players are like, oh my god, like the sprite tier deck is crazy. Well, it's crazy, but it hasn't had a huge conversion rate. It's kind of like those little sprite adventure decks. You know, they show up, but they're definitely not like the dominant one. We also had one Math Mech, one Flaunderies, had a hero player in top cut. He had a Runic deck make top 32, which I'll profile this afternoon. We also had Sword Soul, Dragon Link, and Branded Eldritch. Now, let me tell you, this Branded Eldritch player goes the mile for this tournament here. As we shift on over here to top 16, you have 7 tier limit players that made it to top 16. What happened to a good chunk of them? Well, when you got to amputate some results here, seeing that tier was still the highest represented converted deck over here, I once again am not very surprised about that. Now, at this point, you're down to 5 sprite players. Sprite lost 6, tier lost also 6. So you eliminated about half of the fields for both of these decks. A little bit less, or it looks to me a little bit more for sprite. But overall, I mean, once again, consistent results are what's going to carry these particular decks to fruition. Like, that's just kind of how this format is right now. Power of the Elements made such a crazy splash on the format that it's nuts. You also had one Math Mech in top cut, so Math Mech continuing to hold on for dear life in top 16. Flaunder also held on, which I'm a little bit interested about that. Now, we also have this hero player that I don't know anything about right now. There hasn't been any info or anything that's really creeped out about this list, but I'm assuming that this is Darklaw Turbo. If you can consistently put Darklaw on the table and, you know, do your job, if your opponent doesn't have Imperm or any way to negate this, you're probably going to win the game. All right, like, don't underestimate how cheesy that card can actually be, because it's honestly one of Hero's saving graces. Now, I give Hero a lot of crap in a lot of these videos because I don't feel like the deck is that consistent at the end of the day, but to see that Hero made it this far in this tournament is really good. And we also had that Branded Eldritch player. Branded Eldritch, he's holding on for dear life. He's just continuing to advance here. The deck is looking like it's doing its job. Fantastic, all right? Now, as we push on into top 8 here, you have 5 tier limit players left according to this breakdown. Wow. Where'd the sprite decks go? Well, sprite is down to 1 standing sprite deck in the top 8. Yeah, it really turned out like that, ladies and gentlemen. I actually think that's a little bit surprising to me that's what you saw just end up being the big knockdown here. Oh my gosh, like, absolutely amazing at the end of the day that's just how much of a conversion turnover that you had. And then, of course, Branded Eldritch made its way into that top cut again which, okay, I'm happy to see it at the end. And then you also had, Flounder, yay. The finals of the event were tier versus tier. Anybody surprised for me to tell you that, because that's kind of how it is. Well, we're going to pass on over to a few deck lists for this event. All right, the first list we're going to be looking at here is Dino's first place tier deck. Now, the community all weekend was like, oh my gosh, Dino won, Dino won. Yes, Dino won, but it wasn't dinosaurs. Silly community, you guys do some very funny things. So we are playing Dynamiscus here, an additional out to Mystic Mine. If it ends up being a body you mill off, okay, you get to revive it. Alright, as long as you do a trap card. We're also playing Double Unending Nightmare down here. This duelist was very, very prepared for Mystic Mine. And, the community constantly says, just draw the out 5-head. Well, we got Unending Nightmares in here. A continuous reusable tool for you to have access to pop, recurring Mystic Mines, anything else that might come up. So many outs. We have 7 outs for mine, and it looks like it ended up working out. So just side a little bit more, and you can be successful as well. You love to see it. Now, there's some sauce here. We are playing 1 Sprite Jet. Control a level 2 or rank 2 monster, special summon it, and then you can add a Sprite spell or trap card. We're playing 1 Smashers in our deck because it's searchable off of the Sprite Blue. You make a Sprite Elf, you can revive it. If you meet the requirements for this, it's such a little cute strategy that it's interesting. We've also extended out our Danger package to 10 for this deck, which is fine. We're on double Sulic as well, and we're actually main decking the Eradicator Epidemic Virus. They were actually really prepared. This is, if I've learned anything from this event, it really showed that players were a lot more prepared for Mystic Mine than you really would have thought. So being able to go Curious Combo Eradicator, set up through the Griffin, you just have to have the Dark on standby to tribute. Seems relatively accessible to me. Next up here, another tier list. Oh my gosh, just seeing like the diversity between all these tier decks is very interesting. I see we're playing Backjack down here as well. Okay. I see that we have triple Dynamiscus built into our main deck. That is particularly interesting. And then we have the Deck Devastation viruses down here as well. Now, we're not doing the Griffin Curious plays, which means we're actually going to have to hard draw these as counters to the metagame. Now, to be honest with you, I don't particularly think that that's impossible to do that, but it's going to be a little bit harder. Just mill them 5-head and set them with the Griffin. Oh, wait. Outside of that, the rest of the build feels very, very standard. You don't get that innovation level with this build that you do with the other two, which, are like the Danger package. This is more of your pure build, and of course, we're playing 1 Mystic Mine. Why would you not want to play 1 Mine, right? Like, the card is straight degeneracy. You may as well take advantage of it, right? Next up, oh boy, a Sprite list. Some goodies here. We're on triple Mystic Mine in the main deck, and we're actually playing a Necro Valley. Okay, so technically, you're on 6 field spells because you're also playing the light stages in here. So, just honestly, this is some kind of cute tech here. I also like the fact that you can demise the land out the Necro Valley or the Mystic Mine. So, if your game plan starts kind of go topsy-turvy sideways here, you have a couple of oh crap buttons. And of course, good old red resonator down here. The beautiful time card. If you know time's coming up, just go ahead and side this in. It's the only real reason why players are playing it right now. But honestly, I like what this deck is doing. We pretty much just stripped out the Deep Sea Divas, playing the Brave package for more consistency, and then Board Breakers / Board Stoppers. It really doesn't really get much different than this, like, to be honest with you. Like, this is kind of what you're looking at for this format here. And last but not least, Sprite tier. So, with the Punk package as well. So you're still doing your pretty big Danger package. You kind of go through the motions with this deck. We've seen this before, where you kind of just step through, like, tier package, and then you can do Punk package, and then you end on, Sprite package to kind of follow up with the rest of everything down here. You also have the Skullmark Ladybug of Doom. We don't have, I don't see any Goki pulls here, which is interesting. We've also got the Vine Karates too. Just kidding. Just drop this off of the Curious to gain some life. But honestly, I do like the Divine Karate in here. We've seen this card starting to get bought out. Players were aware of this. But yeah, this is a little bit more of what you can expect here in terms of the more hybrid package of things. So what do you guys think about the Oceanic event? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.